have a look at question 4.2.6. Question 4.2.6, guys, is actually very important because this question deals with how we're going to basically work backwards, right, to determine how much the cost of this Ford series was, right, in 2020, right, before all these inflation amounts were included, right? So I'm gonna need you guys to pay attention to this question because it's very important, okay? And how I explain it, hopefully, is gonna make it easy for you guys to grasp this concept without trying to memorize a lot of things, okay? So please pay attention. Let's see, question 4.2.6. It says the inflation rate in America for 2021 was 7%, and in 2020 it was 1.4%. The price of a Ford F-Series vehicle in 2022 is $32,332, right? It is stated that the price of the Ford F-Series vehicle in 2020 was more than $29,800. Okay. So we need to verify showing calculations whether this statement is correct. We need to basically verify if the price for the Ford F-Series in 2020 was more than $29,800. So how do you go about this? Okay, so in this question, like I mentioned, very important, you need to highlight all the important information that you need to extract from this question, right? We told that the inflation rate in 2021 was 7%. In 2020, it was 1.4%, right? And we are told that the price of this Ford F-Series in 2022 was $32,332. So just take out this information and let us put it on a table so that we are able to see what is going on. Okay, what is going on? Let's do that. Okay, question 4.2. So I'm gonna use like a table, right? Just so that you see what's going on here. All right, so in this question, we're given 3 years that we are working with, right? We're working with the year 2020, we are working with the year 2021, and with the year 2022, right? We are told that the inflation rate in America for 2021 was 7%. Let's put that down. In 2020, it was 1.4%. And we're given the price of this Ford F-Series in 2022 as that amount, okay? And we are told that the price of this Ford F-Series was 32,332 in 2022. The whole point of this calculation, right, is for us to basically confirm, right, if the price of the Ford F-Series vehicle in 2020 was more than 29,800. Okay, so we want to basically check whether the price, okay, in 2020 was greater than, so 29,800. That is what we're trying to basically find. Was the price in 2020 greater than 29,800? How do we go about basically now doing this calculation, right? So we need to basically work back, okay? Taking into consideration these inflation values that are given to us. So we are given basically the inflation rate for the different years, right? We're told that the rate of inflation in 2020 was 1.4. Then in 2021, it was 7%, and we're not really given what the inflation rate was in 2022, right? So for us to be able to determine what this X value is in 2020, right, we basically need to move backwards, okay? How do we move backwards, okay? So now we need to figure out, if we already know that the rate of inflation in 2021 was 7%, okay, right? So as to move from 2021 to 2022, that means that we basically applied an inflation rate of 7%, okay? So that means that this value that is given to us here, right, represents 107% of our inflation. So how can we get the price, okay, in 2021. How can we get that price? That X represents that price there. What do we need to do? So if that price in 2022 is 107% because it includes the inflation, okay? So for us to move from 2021 to 20 from for us to move from 2020 to 2021, we implemented an inflation of, let me actually write it like this, of 1.4%. Okay, for us to move from 2020 to 2021, right? For us to move from 2021 to 2022, we implemented, there was an inflation of 7%. So how do we move backwards to find what was the price in 2021? What was the price in 2020? Okay, how do you find these? How do you find these figures? So I already mentioned that this value of 32,000, right? 332 basically represents 107%. Because like I mentioned, guys, right? I always mention this. 100% is basically the amount that includes any percentage values that were implemented. This excludes any percentage values that were implemented. Now, then when we start adding these percentage values, right? So for example, because we know that for us to move from 2021 to 2022, there was an inflation from 2021 to 2022, there was an inflation of 7%. Therefore, we added that 7%. Okay, so that price there represents 107%, okay? Or it represents the amount including inflation, okay? So I'm just explaining that last column there, okay? Right? Okay, so in this case, how will we then get what the amount was, okay, before we added that 7% of inflation, okay? All the time, guys, you need to obviously use this formula, right? Okay, to get this amount here, right, before inflation occurred, you need to realize that amount basically is 100%. Okay, it's 100% because that amount is the amount before inflation occurs. Okay, and now this value that we'll get here, okay, will now represent how much? 101.4%. Where am I getting that 101.4%, okay, from? Okay, because we know for us to move from 2020 to 2021, right? Or in the year 2020 to 2021, there was an inflation of 1.4 that happened, okay? Okay, making now that price on that column, if we basically including the inflation that happened from the previous year, is 101.4%. Okay, let me explain this again. We are given different years here, right? We're given the year of 2020, we're given the year 2021, and we are given the year 2022, right? Then we are told that the inflation rates were as follows, right? In 2021, the inflation was 1.4%. From 2021 to 2022, actually, it was 1.4%, right? From 2021 to 2022, it was 7%. However, when we basically think of this practically, okay, it basically means that when we basically moved from 2020 to 2021, we implemented 1.4% inflation. When we moved from 2021 to 2022, we implemented an inflation of 7%. Okay, then we were given what the price of the Ford F Series was in 2022, right? The price was 32,332. That was the price. Okay, now we want to basically move backwards to determine what the price is going to be in 2020. Okay, we want to basically confirm or verify if the price that we will get in 2020 is going to be a price that is greater than 29,800. That is basically what we're trying to determine. Okay, so for us to be able to determine this now, we need to work backwards, always taking into consideration what I've always taught you guys, right? When we're always thinking about such percentage calculations where we're given a particular figure and we need to figure out with these percentages that are given to me, what do I want? What do I have, right? you need to always think of it this way, okay? What is the amount that is including whatever, right? In this case, we are given an inflation amount, okay? Then we are given an amount that includes inflation, and we are given an amount that excludes, okay? But in this case, we need to be very careful because now these amounts including, these amounts excluding depends on where you're working and where you're going. Okay, so let's see. In this case, in 2022, right, we are given an amount that these Ford F series will equal to 32,332. Okay, so now we already know that this amount, right, that we are given here already includes the inflation amount. Okay, so we can already now deduce that in this case, right, this amount represents 107%. Okay, so that price of the Ford F series includes the inflation. Now we want to basically move backwards to determine what was the price, right, of the Ford S series in 2021. How do we now determine this price here? Okay, so now if you're looking at it relative to this amount that we have here, right, this amount will only be basically the 100%. It'll be 100%. Okay, because now this amount will actually be what the price was before we added the inflation amount. Okay, so when we basically want to determine this price here, right, it'll just be 100% before we implemented the inflation. So let's take it step by step. Let's determine what the amount is going to be for the Ford F series, right, in 2021 before we implemented that 7% inflation. Okay, so let's do that. We're gonna basically take that 32,000. Okay, I'm just gonna say what is the price in 2021? Okay, just so that you guys can follow, right, as to what I'm doing here. Okay, so we're gonna basically take that 32,332 and then you multiply by what do you want, right? So we want what is the price in 2021? So we're going to multiply by what you want, that 100%, okay? And you're going to divide it by what you have. This figure that we have here represents 107. It represents the amount that includes our inflation, okay? 107%. Okay, so what we see here, right? This is what you want, which is the price of the Ford F series, excluding the inflation in 2021, divided by what you have, which is the price of the Ford F series, including inflation in 2022, right? The percentage cancel. If you punch this into your calculator, you'll find that the price of the Ford F series in 2021 was actually equal to 30,216.82243. Remember, guys, bits and pieces, right? So I'm gonna just leave this value as it is for now. I'm only gonna round off the final answer because I want to be accurate. Okay, right. So now we know what the price of the Ford F series was in 2021. I'm just gonna write it as that amount there of 32,216.82243. Right. So now we know what the price was in 2021. Okay. So now when we're looking at this amount and we want to determine how we wanna basically work backwards to what would the price be in 2020. Okay, so now for us to determine what the price is going to be in 2020, we need to ask ourselves, what does this amount represent when we basically, relative to this inflation rate that basically occurred from 2020 to 2021? Okay, so now when you look at it that way, we know that, oh, this amount now, when we're looking at it from that perspective, right, it represents 1.4% plus 100%. Okay, because remember, this amount, when we're just looking at these 2 years, right, the amount before the inflation was included is just 100%. Okay, so here it'll just be 100%. This amount will just be 100% because we wouldn't have added. It's the amount excluding the inflation in that case, right? It'll just be 100%, okay? But now, this amount here already has the 1.4% of the inflation included. So what does that mean? In that case, it'll just be that 100% plus 1.4%, which is equal to 1.4%, which is equal to 101.4%. Okay, so in this case, right, this amount now represents 101.4%. Okay, when we are just looking at it from coming from 2020. Okay, so now how do we basically get what the amount was in 2020, right? You will take that amount. So to get the price in 2020, you will take now this amount that we've calculated of 30,216.82243, and you multiply it by, what do we want? We want to basically determine what is the 100% value here. What is this value that excludes inflation in 2020, right? Which is 100%, okay? And you divide it by what you have, okay? Relative to when you're basically focusing on what happened in the year 2020 to 2021, right? What do we have? What does this value now represent? If we are coming from 2020, it represents 101.4%. Okay, because now if we're moving from 2020 to 2021, we basically implemented, there was an inflation of 1.4 that occurred. So this amount represents that, it includes that inflation value. Okay, so it's going to be 101.4%. Okay, right? So I'm writing the percentages because I want to show you that because it's percentage and percentage, they're canceling. Okay, right? We need to understand why are the percentages not written? They are canceling. That is why. Okay, and then from there, if you punch this into your calculator, you will get then that the price of this Ford F series, okay, was actually equal to, why do I keep writing rands? Okay, $29,000, 29,799.62764. So that was the price, right, of the Ford F series in this year. Okay, so it was 29,799.62525. All right, and I did explain what was going on there. So this question, yeah, it's just one of those questions that you really need to now think. Okay, we're not just plugging in, we're not just doing as you please, but we are actually now thinking about what we're doing. Okay, very important calculation. Okay, I suggest that you also just watch this video tutorial maybe twice, especially this explanation. Okay, so now we've calculated what the price of the Ford F series was, okay, before the inflation in 2020, right? And now we basically want to check, is this price greater than 29,800? Because that is basically the first thing that we wanted to confirm. We wanted to check if this price in 2020 was greater than, okay, guys, greater than. This just means greater than, okay, 29,800. And we basically see here that this price that we've basically obtained here, okay, when we're doing our detailed calculations, is actually less than, this value is less than this value that we were initially given. Okay, so what can we conclude? Okay, so I'm just going to actually just write the final value. Okay, round it off now because we are done. Okay, therefore we see that the price is equal to 29,799 point, you can just say 63. All right, and because you can see that this price is actually less than the price that was initially stipulated. Remember, they said that determine, verify showing calculations whether his statement is valid. His statement was that the price of the Ford F series in 2020, right, was more than that. And we found that the price of the Ford F series in 2020 was not more than that. It is actually 29,799.63. It is not more than 29,800. Okay, so in this case, we can just conclude that the statement is not valid. And then for us to determine the price in 2020, okay, all right, question 4.2.7, determine as a percentage the probability of purchasing a Ram pickup in America. Nice question, a lighter question, ending everything off on a lighter note, right? So we're focusing our attention now on America, right? What is the probability of basically getting a Ram pickup? Remember, guys, probability is equal to your favorable outcomes divided by the total outcomes. In this case, what are your favorable outcomes? We want to find what is the probability of basically purchasing a Ram pickup in America, right? So, where is the Ram pickup section, right? So the Ram pickup section is the white section there. What is the probability? So we see that 569,388 people bought or vehicles, Ram pickup vehicles were actually sold out of a total of 2,584,176. Okay, so simple, right? In calculating probability, take your favorable outcomes, and in this case, our favorable outcomes is what? Your Ram pickup divided by the total outcomes, the total vehicles sold, which is 2,584,176. Okay, so literally, you're gonna just do that, okay? Okay, so we know we want the probability. Probability, guys, is equal to favorable outcomes over total outcomes. What you want, what are the outcomes that you want, okay? That's what we're talking about when we're talking about favorables, okay? And then divided by the total outcomes, okay? And whatever value that we get, we have to basically multiply by 100 because Bate determined as a percentage. So we're going to multiply whatever value that we get by 100 because we want the percentage. Okay, so what are the favorable outcomes in this case? Was the total number of Ram pickups that were bought, and that was 569,388 divided by what are the total outcomes? How many vehicles were sold in America in total? It was 2,584,176 multiplied by 100. And therefore, if you punch this into your calculator, girls, you'll get 22.03363858%. Rounded off to 2 decimal places, it's just going to be 22.03%. So that is the probability of purchasing a Ram pickup in America, right? So guys, that is it for today's video tutorial. I think what is super important from this video tutorial, guys, was question 4.2.6, right? Because that dealt with inflation. Us now having to work backwards to determine a price of a car, right? Considering the inflation values that occurred. Okay, this question is very important, and I think I'm going to do more video tutorials where I do inflation calculations, okay, just to help you guys see how you guys can tackle those ones, and just so that I can also be confident that you guys will be properly prepared. Okay, that is it for today's video tutorial, guys. The next video tutorial, I'm going to be tackling question 5.1 as well as question 5.2 in one go, right? And then we are done with this paper, and we're going to get started with paper 2 from the November 2022 grade 12 mathematical literacy paper. All right, guys, please don't forget to support the channel. If you really appreciate the content that I'm bringing to you guys, please consider being a member of the channel, right? And thank you guys for making it this far. I hope I helped you guys tremendously with this question. I think this one was one of those questions. Okay, and I'll see you guys on the next video tutorial, guys. That is it, guys, and I'll see you guys on my next upload, Distance Learning with Lee, where I make learning mathematics super easy. Bye, guys.